I've been waiting for this. We got Speed Engineering, 1 7/8" long tube headers. And then we have the rear exit exhaust kit. This is all 3-inch stainless, catless. Pretty good stuff from what I've seen. I think altogether is around $900 for the setup. If you got a long bed, you'll have to get these 44-inch extension tubes on the side. I talked about the car getting stuffed under the fender. I replaced the axle. Well, it also mangled up the exhaust, so they cut it off. Now, they cut it off directly behind the O2 sensor. There wasn't enough meat there for me to grab, so I welded on an exhaust adapter. It rusted through, broke again. This thing just pours exhaust gases into the cab and under the bed, and the heat actually melted my shock right there. Also rusted a hole in the bed. It burnt the paint off. So I'm going to take her on a quick drive, get some heat in her so that way it's a little bit easier to work with. And then we're going to go ahead and throw this exhaust on. Terrible exhaust leak, super loud. It's a dual exhaust and only one side is connected to that muffler. Kind of sounds like something you'd go hunting scrap metal in. I'll give it a little bit of onion here so you guys can hear it better. I'll be back with you in a minute after I get me some damn coffee. A couple of quick things I wanted to throw into this video that I had actually forgot to mention when I first filmed this. You're going to want to give yourself some margin of error time when it comes to this install. Realistically, if all goes well, this job can be completed in as little as 5 or 6 hours. Unfortunately, with these older trucks, especially high mileage, if you live in the Midwest, up north, you're going to have some of those exhaust manifold bolts break. Now, there's a lot of videos on covering this, and I'm actually not going to go too in depth as far as that goes. However, I will say the best remedy is going to be a welder. So if you have a welder, cool. If you have a buddy with a welder, that'll also work. They're most commonly going to break right up against the firewall. Cylinder 7 and 8, so the furthest back cylinder on each side, and that's because of all of that concentrated heat. But you can actually try to avoid that with a few easy steps. Now, the first step, like I said, is go ahead and get some heat in it, take it on a quick drive, a good 20 or 30 minutes, get everything warm. When you get back, hit those manifold bolts with some PB Blast or some kind of penetrating compound. Now, when you go to break those loose, I highly recommend breaking loose the furthest back first, that cylinder 7 and cylinder 8 manifold bolts, the ones the furthest back down by the firewall, because those are going to be the hardest. When you break them loose, snug them back up, take them out 3/4 of a turn, take them back in 1/2, and just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth as much as you can. And they still may break, but if you do these things and you take your time and you're patient with it and you don't rush through, if they do break, you may just get lucky enough where they break on the outside of the head. You can have you or your buddy weld a quick nut on the outside of it, spray it down with PB Blast, back it right out. If this does happen, definitely run a tap through there, clean out the threads. The last thing you want to do is have an exhaust leak on a brand new system. Really, we're lucking out with it being a truck. There is plenty of space. Like I said, you can get a MIG torch in on each side, but that is something to be aware of. So just set some time aside. Make sure you give yourself a full weekend to do this just in case. Unless if you've already replaced those bolts, or unless if your truck is, really clean on the, engine bay and, you don't have a lot of rust. Maybe you got a southern truck with low mileage, garage kept, something that hasn't been through as many heat cycles as far as being outside in the cold, warming up. These things do matter and they play a huge role. So just something to keep in mind. All right, so first things first, got the Sawzall with a good bimetal blade. Yeah, dude.
No fucking.
I told you it's pretty decent out here. Yup.
Concrete is getting a little bit warmer. Stuff together for this. But yeah, dude, it is fucking decent.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't have super high expectations either. I was like, man, it is a wall heater, so I mean, it's got to be somewhat decent. So one thing I forgot to mention, you do have to drop the transmission cross member to get this exhaust out. And I'm sure to put the new one in. Now a few years ago when I looked at this exhaust, it said something about fitment issues with the 4L80. I think that's been fixed because the other videos I've seen on this exhaust on the 2500s, they didn't mention any fitment issues. So I will let you know. So I got this cut. I'm gonna go ahead and drop this transmission cross member. I'm not sure what size bolts these are. I'm using an 18 and it's close, but there is a nut on top and a bolt on the bottom. So just throw a wrench up there. You can actually see it in there now. Yep. So onward. So got all the old exhaust off. I actually unbolted the exhaust from the manifolds just because the manifold's got to come out from the top and it's already kind of a tight squeeze. You are going to have to remove the dipstick to get this passenger side manifold off. You'll notice mine is nice and shiny and new, and that is definitely not because I broke the original one when I replaced this manifold the first time. Completely coincidental. I definitely didn't break the first one and have to wait 3 days for a new one to come in. So just get that out of your head. I didn't do it, okay? Didn't happen. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and do the driver's side first. Just because it's less of a pain because of that dipstick. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off these plug wires now, unbolt the manifolds, and start slipping this up through the top. So we got 6 bolts, got our plug wires, and this will snake up through the top. On the other side, to get this dipstick tube out, you're going to have 1 bolt, I believe it's 13 or 14, something like that, right there on the side of the head, this little bracket. When you're pulling this out, well, you probably shouldn't take my advice because I broke the first one. But when you're kind of wiggling it, try to give it a little twist back and forth to get it broke free. You definitely want to avoid trying to break it off down there in the bottom because it's a nightmare getting out. Thankfully, I didn't have to deal with that. Got them both out. I did find an exhaust leak there on the back. That bolt was a little loose. I didn't torque them down. The first time I did it, I think I was in a hurry to try to get back together so that way I could get to work the next day. But as you saw, we wiggled that dipstick tube out of there, got that out of the way. And aside from that, it just snakes up over on this side. There's more room to get it out on this side. But you have the struggle of getting that tube out. Mine is pretty easy since it's a fresh one. That thing's only like maybe a year old. So it's going to be easier to actually snake it up through this way. This side's still not exactly hard. You just have a little bit less space because of the steering shaft here, the wiring harness. But as you saw, I mean, it came out pretty easy. There's no wrestling with it. I think the long tubes are going to have to go in from the bottom. That I'm not sure. I don't think they came with any instructions or anything. So we're going to go ahead and figure that out. I did have some luck with these here, the Milwaukee vice grips. I'd lock these down onto the broken bolts. And then you can take a screwdriver or another pair of pliers and just clamp these things down. And I mean, you can crank these down ridiculously tight. That got 3 out of the 4 broken bolts out. And unfortunately, I had to use the welder to get the last one. That was the only way. I tried for about 2 days with different vice grips and trying to grind them and trying to get a bite on that and nothing. So I promise you, welder, easiest way by far. So we're going to go ahead and get into the fitment of the long tubes. I don't know if they go in from the top or the bottom. We're going to figure that out now. All right, so as you saw, it's pretty easy to snake it up there. This is the open, easier side with more room. I don't even have the truck jacked up. I just have the transmission supported because I took out that cross member. But one thing, we are going to have to get rid of this hanger mount here that used to hold the exhaust. And why your money looks sad? I'm on your ass till I'm in the casket. I ain't bragging. All right, so I don't know how much of that you caught, but I got all these torqued down. You want to start at the middle, work your way out. You start at 11 foot-pounds and then go up to 18 foot-pounds. Make sure you go back over them a couple times, starting from the middle in that same pattern, alternating left to right. So we'll loosen up, you know, as tension gets on the other bolts. Down here you can see where that dipstick tube slides in. It's a lot easier to put it in with the headers than it is with the original exhaust manifolds. But this side's all buttoned up. We just got to throw the spark plug wire boots on. Then we're going to go ahead and do the other side, start working our way back. So just a quick note here, got the plug wires on, and you see the header tubes do actually come a little close, and it's actually touching on this was that number 5, I'm sorry, that would be number 2, on the number 2 plug. So I would actually recommend getting like the heat wrap, I think it's like Kevlar sleeve or carbon fiber sleeve, whatever that is. Either that, or I mean, even wrap these headers to try to isolate the heat. You can see it's got the little metal heat protector there, but it ain't doing much when the rubber's up against it. Pretty good fit overall though, aside from that. I'm not sure if they notated that on their website at all, but we're gonna go ahead and get started on this driver's side. But I'm gonna go ahead and try to feed this one up from the bottom. The other one was, I mean, you could have thrown it up from the bottom. Didn't have to jack the truck up at all. This is a 2500, so it sits up a little bit. I think even on a half-ton stock drive height, you probably be fine.
Here we go.
Alrighty, y'all. So instead of wrestling these old O2 sensors out, I ended up just replacing it with some brand new ones. You can go through the extra effort and save yourself 150 to 200 bucks, depending on what brand you go with. But I just didn't want to deal with it, and I don't know if those were good anyways. It's been running rich for about 2 years. So we're gonna go ahead and give it a fire up, just open header, because I simply cannot resist, and why not? We are gonna put the rest of the exhaust on, but the long tube headers and all that's all buttoned up and ready. So we're gonna see what this old girl sounds like. Long tube headers. Race car.
Woo! Decent, baby.
Damn! Oh, the neighbors are gonna cuss us out. All right, come back to throw the rest of the exhaust on. Man, that smells good.
Invincible.
I guess the tube length depends on if you got a, you know, single cab long bed or, you know, single cab short bed, extended cab, crew cab, etc. So you'll have to do more digging on that. All right, so after dealing with that, I found out, for anybody wondering, this is a Silverado 2500 single cab long bed. The length that I found, at least on my mock-up, seemed to be just about perfect, is right around 36.5 to 37 inches on the extension tubes. I'm pretty sure the ones that I ordered were like 44 inches or something. It's the ones I thought I needed. But anyhow, they do come with 4 bolts here. 2 of these lock these 2 clamps together. One's got the hanger built in. From what I'm picking up, this one goes right on the forward side of the muffler. And then also 2 of those bolts will actually tie the 2 tailpipes together that are coming out towards the tips. It seems like they made the connection there for the actual, was it the hoop coming back down a little bit loose for some adjustment, which is pretty nice. The rest of it seems to fit pretty tight. I've seen a lot of videos of these where the tips just don't really look that right where they're coming out. I don't know if that's installer error or if that's just how the kit is. But in the future, I will be shortening that down, and I actually want a side exit here. I saw a lot of kits that did that for the half ton with like a single exhaust, or ones with a Y pipe instead of an X pipe, so not a true dual system. I actually didn't see any true dual systems that actually had a side exit in front of the tire. All of them that I found are either straight out the back or out one side. So I got a new TIG 200 over there. I gotta wait on argon and to build a welding cart for it. After that, I also have the Milwaukee Portaband over there. I gotta get battery and charger and whatnot for that. So probably here in about a month, I'll actually be showing you guys how to make this into a side exit. It seems pretty simple. I'm thinking I'm actually going to be able to reuse those shorter tubes that come with the tip. Bring the muffler forward, put the clamp on the front or the rear side of the muffler, and then actually angle the tips out back. I don't know if I'm going to sweep them in front of that leaf spring hanger or underneath the leaf spring hanger. I'm imagining underneath, but we shall see at a later time and date. For now, honestly, it's all going together really smooth. It's a nice kit for the money, for sure. There's a lot of kits out there that were a lot pricier, and I'm super happy with how it's going together. So we're gonna jump back into getting this piece together, and right now I haven't tightened a single clamp on the system. I'm gonna wait until everything is just right and then work my way from the front all the way to the back, and try to get it about perfect. And I highly recommend that, because I found even with this pipe coming here, right past the shock absorber, you're actually going to want to, use that adjustment to keep that exhaust away from the muffler. You know, if you just slap it in there and clamp everything, you can actually make it touch your shock. So, you know, just little things like that. You just want to take your time with it, leave everything loose until you're done. So we're going to jump back into this. All right, so something I'm not super happy with, and now that this has happened, I actually recall seeing this in one of the videos I watched on this exhaust a while back. The hanger for this piece that goes over the axle is actually almost higher than the hanger that's in the truck. So this needs shortened by about 1 inch. So, like, I guess, sorry to any of you who don't have a welder. Kind of ridiculous. I mean, I'm pretty sure that video was from well over a year ago and this still hadn't been addressed. So that's kind of ridiculous. I'm not really mad for myself. This shouldn't take too long, but that is kind of irritates me that there's going to be people out here expecting this to be a bolt-in kit and have to modify it. I mean, I guess you probably could get away with this, but just something to keep in mind. That is an issue. I double and triple check, make sure everything was exactly how it's supposed to be. Another thing, how far apart the tips are. These are bolted together now. There's a little bracket on both of those that actually bolt together. And I'll be moving this. I'll actually be shortening it and making it a side exit here in probably about a month or so. But I'm not a fan of how far apart those tips are. It's hanging a little low because obviously I had that piece out. So it ain't nothing pretty. I just threw this together real quick. It's 11:30, so I'm just trying to hurry up, get this together, go for a quick test drive. I just knocked off an inch of it.
Oh yeah. Are we talking about losing control? I'ma show you how we lose control, baby. Watch this. Look, Marty Mark. Watch the way I start up. I've been going hard, but I can go way harder. Every beat I'm on, yeah, you know that I slaughter. And I'm always looking gorgeous, chilling with somebody's daughter. Yeah, she loving me. Say she love the way my chain sit and contemplate. And of course it says my name if you wanna rate. To let you know who's finna blow. Always win and check the scope. I'm only losing control.
For the price, the sound this thing puts out and the depth that it has, good God. Like, that's the best money I've ever spent. Like, you guys need to get this exhaust. It is nasty. You can feel it hit your chest. I mean, like, it's deep, it's clear, it doesn't sound ratty, it doesn't sound like Kyle's shitty exhaust where he just hacked it off. I mean, it's actually got a good tone, good depth, and when you mat it and you hear this thing rev up, your natural instinct is to just stab it again. I mean, this exhaust is badass. Man, yeah, it kicks ass. Unfortunately, like I said, it's going to need a tune. It doesn't have cats, so the downstream O2 is going to be getting no reading at all. I don't even have it plugged in, kind of pointless. It's going to be disabled in the computer anyways. But yeah, that's it. Long awaited, but well worth it. I'm not a huge fan of where these tips sit. They do hang a little low in my opinion. I think they hang a little bit lower on the 2500 HD. I could be wrong there, don't quote me. You're gonna hear that a lot, but like I said, eventually it's gonna be a side exit right there. That's my ultimate goal, but I couldn't find a kit that would do that. But nice knowing I'm gonna get the sound that I want regardless. So with all of the parts that I had ordered, it was 2 separate kits. There was the headers, the full exhaust kit, and then like I said, the 44-inch extension tubes. You're most likely going to have to cut those extension tubes. I'm pretty sure they just send too much, so that way you have too much and not too little. This is about what you're left with. Now there is, I believe, 3 elbows in here. Those are a couple short pieces from where I cut down the 44-inch tubes. These are the regular extension tubes that came with. Now the perfect length that I found for the extension tubes is 35 inches. And that is for a single cab long bed 2-wheel drive. I'm not sure if these elbows come for 4-wheel drive trucks or if that is to work with their mid-length headers. That I'm actually not sure of. It does come with 3 or 4 extra clamps. Overall, not too much extra, but this is nice for me because I'm going to be shortening the exhaust later. I just picked up a TIG welder, so it's nice to have some practice material that's the same stuff I'm going to be working with. I'd rather burn a hole through this stuff than the stuff I care about. But just an idea of what you're going to be left with after these kits, and it is nice that they do send a couple extra clamps, just in case if you do mess one up. They did actually work pretty good. I had saw complaints about their clamps some time before. Not sure exactly what the complaints were, but they worked pretty good for me. They probably could have made them a little bit lighter, but they clamped down nice and tight. They didn't strip out. Got them nice and tight. I don't have any exhaust leaks, so. There was some trimming that I had to do on this 4L80 bell housing. This is right here above the starter. This is an unused bolt hole. I hope you can see that right there. When I first put these headers on, I actually didn't realize that it was touching. It didn't get a complete seal because it was pressing up against it. It's actually a very small dent there. I had to take off less than a ½ an inch to get this to fit. Unused bolt hole, you're not going to hurt anything, just a quick sawzall blade. This is cast aluminum material, so it cuts really easily. This isn't a big deal. Don't let it scare you. And I also just want to clarify that that fitment issue with the bolt hole right above the starter is only an issue on the 4L80. So if you're in a 2500 or 2500 HD, that is something you're going to have to address. If you're in a 1/2 ton with the 5.3 or a 4.8 with the 4L60, you'll be fine. At the end of the day, if you have any mechanical aptitude and you can turn a wrench, if you're any help whatsoever in the garage, this is a pretty simple install. It's something that you can tackle on a weekend pretty easily. That's pretty much worst case scenario. If all goes well, everything's easy and you're working on a nice clean truck, you can knock this out in, I'd say, 5 to 6 hours.